Rick calling in? Premature, in my opinion.
Oh,
So they go,
It's got to pass first.
so that it's official.
no, it's official.
Okay.
Okay.
Is Miss,
Hey there, how are you? Guess I'm supposed
A
to.
bit of a cough, but I just checked my temperature. I'm
You're
fine.
okay? Okay.
are you calling Kathy?
He's running,
Oh,
literally,
Right.
water to it.
I was so jealous when I saw your owl. I just thought, oh, I want to see one. I still
Well,
haven't.
yeah, and
Joe's out there looking for it. No, but he.
Oh, you should have checked with me. I could tell you exactly where to go. He's been there for 3 weeks. An owl. That was today?
So cute, long legs. I was surprised at those legs.
never declared it.
On record.
let me call to order the City of Lincoln City work session. This is March 16th, 2020, approximately 10:30. And Kathy, could we do a roll call, please?
Dick Anderson?
Yes.
Judy Casper?
Here.
Deanna Hinton?
Here.
Riley Hoagland?
Here.
Diane Coos?
Here.
Rick Mark?
Here.
And Mitch Parsons?
Here.
Great. Let me remind everybody, this is a work session and not a city council meeting. We'll have that later today. No decisions really can be made in the work session, so this is information. And let us remind us all that one of our options, rather than gathering, is to do audio and call in if you in the future want to do that. We're set up to handle such a meeting. And we've shortened the work session agenda to just curbside compost pickup agenda. And with that, Ron, if you can lead us off.
Yeah, we added this on as an agenda item, and then it turned out to be our work session because we are scheduled to have this on your agenda for next Monday. Key important people in this are the Frenches, who are not going to be in town. So we wanted to make sure if there were any questions that you had, that we were able to get those questions answered before this was presented to you for consideration for your vote on Monday. Last fall, you had a work session that discussed creating a curbside compost pickup. Just a few of the things to remind you, I put in your packet this information that's up on the screen about the curbside pickup and the proposal that was given to us by the North Lincoln Sanitary Services. Tina's going to jump in where I foul up, but essentially it's this. And there are a couple. There's one really big discussion item that we wanted to bring up, and that the first is that it would be every other week. So you'd have your recycling, and then you would have your 1 week, then you'd have your composting the next week.
Nope, same day.
I'm sorry, thank you. Same day. Where I was wrong, she'll jump in there and correct it.
So what is that going to be now? It's
Recycle and compost will be the same week.
Same
So you
week.
put those two roll carts out together.
oh, okay.
Sorry.
It will take them about
it
a
does.
year in order to gear up for this. That's to buy the truck, the equipment, everything that needs to go with this. So the reason it's before you in March is so that we hit the springtime next year when it would come forward. Do you want to talk a little bit about what is compostable?
Yeah, and on the third page of your packet, I actually, this is a new one, so maybe we do want to pass this out?
Yeah, let's pass this out.
This is the one I sent, here, there's. So on the packet that you're going to get now, which it's not super different, but this is the latest and greatest from PRC, which is the facility that we'll be hauling to. Oh, you do have the correct one.
It's the last
So maybe,
page.
okay.
I don't.
I'll take it.
So the motto that we're going to use is if it grows, it goes. But you will notice that meat, fish, and poultry and bones is allowable, and they do that because they're finding that the percentage that they're getting of that is going fine with the mix that they're getting. So, and they've kept that in there. And originally, anything fat containing they didn't want. So we were happy so that means that you can actually scrape your plate, which is really handy. So what cannot go, and one of the things that I talked to Dave Price about when he made his presentation to you about single-use containers is compostable containers. And so I did want to highlight that, even though that all of the information out there is that there's compostable silverware and compostable containers. They are not compostable in Oregon. There's one facility in Washington that can handle those type of containers. It's about 4 times the disposal rate of the way that we compost in Oregon. Basically, those containers and cutlery have to have heat and pressure to break down. They are not designed to break down in the type of composting that we do in Oregon. So coffee filters, tea bags, those types of things are fine, but other compostable products are not.
Okay. We mentioned the rollout date, estimating, or they're estimating 2,500 tons per year will be collected. The kind of the really big issue that we wanted to make sure was a discussion item as we get ready to present this to you is in the rate structure itself. There's 2 options that are before you and will be before you next week. One of those options is based upon this will be like recycling in that it'll be mandatory. And if it's applied, if the rate is applied to residential only, if it's applied to resident, it would be $6.85 a month. If it's applied to residential and commercial, it would increase the individual rates by about 10%. You have the rate structure worksheets that were presented last fall. They're still accurate. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to quantify that this is a residential program regardless of how we choose to pay for it. So we think if you were to have us choose, we would choose the 10%. And the reason is because if you start getting into the larger residential vessels, so if you go down the rate sheet to a 96-gallon roll cart, if you do a residential only rate increase on those, pretty soon your residential rates and your commercial rates are going to be out of whack, meaning it would be cheaper at some point to get a 1-yard container and not have a 96-gallon roll cart and be considered a residential customer anymore. So now when we look at volume, so we try to make our rates make sense, right? So a 32-gallon is 1/3 of the cost, roughly, of a 64 or a 96-gallon, and a 96-gallon is half of the cost of a 1 yard, or a third of the cost. I can't remember how many 96 gallons fit into a 1 yard. But if you start applying fairly large rate increases to residential only, all of a sudden that volume rates gets out of whack. Does that make sense? It's not impossible, and this year it's not a big deal. But 10 years from now, when we just have a rate structure like we've had for the last 10 years, all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, why are the roll carts more expensive than the 1 yards? And then all of a sudden you're like, why is the volume not match up? And it's like, oh, because of composting. So it's not impossible. It's just we want to try to keep our cost of service to make sense and a lot of it is for you guys. So when you look at our rates, you can see why things are the way they are. But if you understand the way the programs work, then it's cool that way too.
If you have a 90-gallon compost, right?
Yes.
You're anticipating them to stop using the yard composting bags and putting their yard debris in that as well, right?
Yes.
That's why the size is so large.
Yes.
So if they have 90 gallons to put food and food waste,
Mm-hmm.
do you anticipate that their 60% of typical, their 96-gallon bins are food waste?
No.
Why would they continue having a 96-gallon? So
So 96-gallon garbage?
Hold on. Let me finish.
Sorry, let's clarify.
You're saying that at some point it becomes too expensive. My point is that if I have a 90-gallon composting container, I no longer need a 96-gallon trash container. And I can go to the 32-gallon, which costs half as much. So in your mind, the question is what percentage is food waste, again, total food waste? And then by having composting, they're going to reduce their size. Or are you making them stay whatever they are? Are you going to allow people to reduce their trash container also?
So first of all, I think you misunderstood me. I didn't say it's too expensive. I said it no longer makes sense from residential to commercial, because right now, if you look at volume pricing from a 96-gallon roll cart to a 1 yard container, it makes sense. If you add $6.85 to just roll carts and not to the commercial containers, which are 1 yards and above, then your volume pricing is out of whack. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying one is too expensive. I'm just saying that they may not make sense. So the answer to your
Makes
question.
sense in what capacity?
In volume wise. So if I am a residential customer and I have two 96-gallon roll carts, and I'm going to get charged $6.85 times 2, so that's another, let's say, $14 a month,
Why would you be getting charged times 2?
because it's,
Because you have two 96 gallons?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
so, yeah, the rates are per vessel.
Okay.
So if I look at that, I'm going to be paying $102 as a residential. But I could say, or I could pay $98.32 and get a 1 yard container and no composting. But you see what I'm saying?
I hear your point.
So that's the only thing that I'm trying to make sure that you understand, is that if we apply it to one rate only, there's going to be some. Now, do the majority of our customers have two 96-gallon roll carts? No. But do we try really hard to make our rates make sense by volume? Yes. And so all I'm saying is that it puts it out of whack a little bit. But if you guys are okay with that, we're okay with that, and you understand that, you know, there's program costs on the residential that are not on the commercial, that's fine. Now, do we want a bunch of 1 yard metal containers in front of our residences? No. But is that a possibility if we get the residential rates too high? Yes. So that, something to think about. That's why, I mean, generally, rate structures work better if they are across the board.
Councilman?
And I have a different kind of question. Well, first of all, just to address the 10%, that's where I ended up when I was reviewing this material, because it would, for me personally, it would cost more a month if it was, the 10% is a lower amount on my bill, and so so I like that. And that my other question is, we pay the extra $5 or whatever it is to have someone come up and get it, because sometimes we're not there.
Right.
But anyway, is that going to be per? Are you changing that rate too when this goes into effect?
So if you have carry-out garbage, you would get carry-out recycle and carry-out compost. And so the carry-out rate would follow it, and it would be applied, so the $6.85 wouldn't change. Your carry-out rate for the total, all 3 vessels may change slightly because it's based on time. Yeah, it's 3 trips now.
Okay, thanks.
And Riley, I didn't finish the second part of your
Answer any
question.
of my questions.
Well, I did answer your first question. Your second question was, can you switch vessel sizes? Yes, you can do that any day of the week.
And what percentage of garbage is food waste?
I can tell you what the state says, that currently 40% by weight by volume.
So people could theoretically reduce their can size of garbage by 40% and still be okay. If they're in a
Theoretically.
96, they
Right.
could go to a 32, thereby
Right.
saving. So are you anticipating people doing that?
I think that the people that have the larger cans absolutely could. It completely depends on their lifestyle, if they have a yard, if they don't have a yard. I mean, that you know, I think what we'll see is a difference in people taking woody debris and trimmings to the transfer station, and we'll start seeing that at the curb more so, if I had to guess. That's where the savings will come in for the customers, is they won't have to make those trips to the transfer station.
Tina, I know we're talking about rates, but as I remember the presentation before, we talked about, you know, residential only, not including commercial because of contamination and stuff. But now we're mixing, in the rate discussion, we're mixing commercial. So my question is, that doesn't imply that you've changed your recommendation and want to have this available to commercial, or?
That's correct. This is a residential program.
Only.
And now, with that being said, I said before, and I stick by that there are some commercial customers out there that we are more than willing to work with, that we feel could really benefit from this program and that would do a really good job at this program. And it would be what I would call a pilot program.
And let you select those to.
Right.
So let me, again, to give context to everybody, because I don't know what I pay or what I have. So could you give some stats of what is the average bin size, roller size that our residents in Lincoln City have as a residential?
So approximately 60% of our customers have 32-gallon roll cart once a week.
Once a week.
Which is
32
currently $20.57 a month. And that includes their 96-gallon recycle roll cart, picked up every other week.
So the trash is 32 and the recycle is 96? Okay. So I'm trying to get perspective of size. And so we're looking at is proposing bringing on another 96 for, and to Riley's point, he would expect that the 32 might decrease the volume. Do you have a smaller than
No.
32?
So then it would be once every 2 weeks.
Oh, so it'd be the frequency of that.
You could
that's how
change
you
frequency.
reduce your
So
cost.
currently, the ordinance says that you have to have trash removed at least every other week. And we do provide every other week service. We also provide once a month service.
Okay.
And we provide on-call service. Both of those currently are outside of the Lincoln City ordinance, but you can change that. So we do provide those services outside of Lincoln City, and in all honesty, we provide those inside of Lincoln City currently because your ordinance isn't enforced, on the mandatory garbage end like it used to be.
Makes sense.
So,
we're-
the other thing I wanted to bring up is the size of the cart. So when you roll out a program like this, it's kind of a universal program. But we understand that there's people out there that a 96-gallon recycle roll cart or a 96-gallon composting roll cart is ridiculous. And so we do make exceptions for that. And we have people that have 32-gallon recycle roll carts, 64-gallon recycle roll carts, and we will try to accommodate that just like we did with recycling. You're going to get on rollout day on March 1st, when we roll out 6,200 carts, there's going to be a blue cart with a brown lid put in front of your house if you're a customer. And, slowly but surely we'll switch them out for you and get you
define
what you need.
Fits that family's needs.
Right.
Okay.
Because, some people, I have, little old ladies that, would take them down the driveway if they tried to roll a full 96-gallon roll cart.
And I think you made a good point, too, is do we really want all these, containers in front of a residence, and how so mega size, and trying to find the cheapest.
Well, and
maybe
again, if
larger.
you don't have a yard, maybe a 96 is not what you need. But if you have a big yard, you may be filling yours up and asking your neighbor if you can put some of your trimmings in theirs. So,
Could you, and not, because it's a work session, we can come back to rate questions and that, because I don't think, at least I'm not sorted out.
ask
yet.
away today, though, because I am not here next Monday.
No, that's fine. But could you help me a little bit on overall why we had the discussion before was we're trying to reduce 40%, you say, to the landfill. And in theory, if we take this 40% and compost it, what happens to the composting? Could you refresh us?
Sure.
And I guess what I'm kind of hoping somewhere in that is that comes back to the citizens of Lincoln City, so that they either have it available, or, much like a coupon that they can get so much free, something to offset, or are you selling it where that's what keeps the rates down overall?
I wish we were selling it.
Yeah, okay. Well,
So let me tell you what happens. So we collect this material. It is source separated. We haul it to Corvallis. Right across the highway from Coffin Butte landfill is PRC, Pacific Resource something.
Yeah.
And they compost material there. They sell their material to different companies that bag it. And if you're buying dirt at Bimart, it's probably coming from PRC. So as far as, citizens getting a rebate, that's not an option. We're actually paying, the tip fee for this material is double of what we pay for garbage. So, it's not a, this isn't a costed version. This is a landfill version. So we're doing this because we've said as a city and as a county, the Lincoln County Solid Waste Advisory, this was one of their top goals, is to get the entire county on board. And then the city identified this as, and what we say is it's low-hanging fruit. When you can do anything that in one fell swoop, you get 40% reduction. There's really nothing else out there that you can even get 2 to 5% reduction.
But reduction is to the landfill.
That's correct.
It's not a savings.
It's
by
not
any
an
means.
economic
so far,
reduction.
There's no savings. There's an additional expense.
That's why you see the rate expense.
Okay.
So the economic piece of it is what Riley was referring to of, reducing. And years ago, we talked about, I said, I can envision someday when you call up North Lincoln Sanitary, you say, I want to start service, and we say, okay, you get 150 gallons. Where do you want to put it? And so envision, 150 gallons, and you get to choose whether you want your 150 gallons in recycle, garbage, and compost, and what you want those vessels to look like. I envision that in probably less than 10 years from now, you'll all be in front of you and we'll be talking about rate structures that look like that, and we may have a garbage or a landfill bucket and then other vessels that are going to various different locations. I really see that as a big possibility.
You're going to care more about your garbage, and you're going to have it very much be separated between
Right.
what you're doing. It's not all one bin.
Right.
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 It's electronics and then garbage, and this is really only what can go to the dump is this
Right.
only thing. Everything else is going to have to be recycled.
So instead of saying garbage, we're going to have something that's labeled landfill, recycle, compost.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I get to pay more to send that to compost, and then I get to buy it back when I want it on my garden.
Or you can do it at your own house.
Well, I guess that's where I'm kind of going, is there a point where do the economics fit? It must be a huge volume in order to make this, and we just can't do it on a basis, or
Not to put down bureaucracy, but it's very expensive to do this. It's a very simple thing. We all know that we can compost in our backyard. It's not rocket science. But to do it in a large volume, anytime you collect one thing from another person and bring it to your property, now you have to control every drop of water, every speck of dust, and all of those things. And then when you're going to sell that product, now you have even more bureaucracy piled on top of that. And every time you add a layer of bureaucracy, you add costs. And so to ensure that when you empty that bag of compost into your garden for your kids to play in, there's not needles or glass in it, there's a cost to that. And I get that. I mean, the people that are making the compost aren't doing it for free. And then the people bagging the compost aren't selling it for free. I mean, everybody's going to make their money along the way.
Just like garbage.
Just like garbage.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I just have a question, just because I know it'll come up for us. Are VRDs in this new idea, are they considered residential?
Yes.
Okay.
So
yes.
what are the rates, this rate compared to the counties to the north and south?
Less.
Less than both of them?
Yes.
On
And
both the per
to the
bin
north does not have this program, and it's still less with the program.
Well, we,
But the rate is still less.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah,
Tina,
that's just, he was,
for the record. So
Oh, sorry. Wallport had weekly recycling, and so when they added their composting program, all they had to do was buy different roll carts. They didn't have to add trucks or employees. So what they did is they discontinued weekly recycling, added every other week recycling, every other week composting. So they actually do it opposite weeks, like what we thought we would originally do. And then when we got to doing routing and stuff, it's like, wait a second, we're going to have an extra truck and a man. We don't have to confuse our customers and make it every other week. We can just have them put them both out the same week. So our rates, even with this new program, are less expensive than any of our neighbors in Tillamook or Lincoln County.
can you explain what your vetting process to the businesses would look like? Because I know there's a lot that want to be and are not at least what it sounds like, able to do it. And so just that you're here.
So sure. So first of all, if PRC thought that we were running a commercial composting program, this rate would be about 40% higher. So if they knew that we were accepting commercial material, they will increase our tip fee about 40%. So if I am running a commercial program that is not a pilot program, this rate does not stay in effect.
I think it's sorted at your facility here off the highway.
So we're not going to sort anything.
You're just going to take what's in the bin straight from the truck straight to PRC.
That's correct. So it has to be clean. So there are small businesses that don't have a lot of employees that if I'm working with you and you have your mom and pop and I know that you know what you're doing and you have a small volume, I'm willing to work with you. If you have 5 employees and you just can't get them on board, that's going to be an issue. So I think that
At what point are you going to be able to determine who the violators are
when I flip the lid to pick it up,
as it's being?
before I pick it up, yeah. I mean,
It'll be clear at that point.
yeah,
Well, just
yeah. And we do that now with recycling.
That's what I want to hear. So it's similar to recycling, because I know even on residential cases, you have issues
Yep.
still.
And we will do that with residential composting as well. I mean, this cannot be an extra garbage can.
Right. But yet, the fees will continue,
Yes.
right?
If you get your composting bin pulled because it is contaminated, your rate does not change.
Correct.
Because the way that the state statute allows us to charge rates, the rate is on the landfill can. You cannot charge a rate on any of the other vessels. You cannot charge a rate on the recycle can or the compost can. The rate is on the landfill can. So no matter what size your landfill can is, that's what carries these other programs. And the DEQ requested that as because they didn't want people to be disincentivized to recycle. So they didn't want people to say, oh, I have to pay an extra $5 a month for a recycle. I don't want that can. So the rate is on the garbage can because everybody wants the garbage can.
Judy and Mitch, I haven't meant to ignore you, but I wanted to look this way to see if you had questions.
No, that pretty
Okay.
much covers it.
Might have been answered.
Okay, good. Rick?
I'm still catching up on a couple things. Thanks, Tina. First of all, you referred earlier to a 1 yard. Is that the 32 gallon?
No, 1 yard is the metal containers that you see like at a restaurant or
They're like
Apply to
behind
residential.
City Hall.
3 feet by 4 feet by 4 feet.
That doesn't apply to residential.
Correct.
When you talk about a 10% increase on residential and commercial, you're bumping up the commercial rate even though they're not participating in.
That's correct. It's a subsidy.
I did have somebody, a constituent raise an objection about having a big 96-gallon can. I don't live here year-round. I don't have a big yard. I don't have any place to put a 96-gallon. So you're saying there's an option for a smaller.
Yeah, and we do that. We've done that with recycling too. We and to try to be as efficient as possible, we've kept all of our bodies the same color, and we just buy different colors of lids so that it's, we can move that around. So yes, we will be buying 32 and 64 brown lids as well as the 96s. And I know that we have a lot of absentee owners, and I should maybe keep my opinion to myself, but I've owned a home in another community before and not necessarily used the services but I think that if you're going to own a home in somebody else's community, you have a responsibility to pay your fair share for whatever benefits that community. And if it's something that community wants and it's a benefit to them, then you have to pony up for that. And, you know, sometimes it wasn't a benefit to me to pay for the things that, but I wanted to be in that community and own a home there, and so I paid.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I got to say, this particular couple, I'm sure, are, you know, would be gung-ho for the program. They just didn't like the idea
Sure.
of big, huge
Gotcha.
land
Right.
on
Yeah.
their small property.
Well, and there's people, I mean, there's single people that are 96s that are here 365 days a year that it's just too much for them.
Okay, let me just, and
I have a little
the other
cardboard.
objection I heard was someone who said, I already compost.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I need to now pay the city? I'm happy just doing what I'm doing.
And again, this is, I hate to use the term the greater good, but this is a citywide program, and there are going to be individuals that this is not ideal for them. And I think that we need to recognize that, you know, there are going to be people that have no use for this roll cart. Does it benefit the majority of our citizens, and does it get to the goal that we're wanting to get to by reducing the tons that we send to the landfill? Yes. Are there going to be some people that don't benefit from it? Yes. I mean, it's similar to the minimums that we put on water and sewer. There's people that never come close to hitting that minimum, but we have it so that you spread that cost out amongst everybody.
I think that's fair. And then
Okay.
My just other thought, and I don't know that I knew. I don't want to. Our household's probably not representative. I mean, it's two people. Right now, my 32-gallon blue bin goes out every week. I don't think I knew that I could get that every other week. Does the rate go down? if
Yeah.
I do it every other week. So that is the way. I mean, I don't fill
Once
that
a
bin
month.
now, and it's going to be, if I compost, all that's going to go in there is this stupid plastic.
That's what she's saying. This is
Yeah.
landfill, a bucket for landfill.
Yeah.
Which would
Right.
literally be
Oh,
plastic
it would be.
containers.
Yeah, because just about everything, pizza boxes. Those
Yeah,
compost.
Pete,
We're cutting
I
back
need to
on
get
our
back from you, back to you on that, because pizza boxes were in, but I noticed when I called PRC, I noticed that they're not on this new graphic.
Okay.
And,
Pizza is, though.
yeah, pizza is. So,
Paper,
Yeah,
I mean,
how does that
it's,
make sense?
Cardboard would be recyclable.
Okay, let's
and
let's
it
go
has
back.
to-go
Food
containers.
Let's
It has,
go-
it
let's
has
go on with that.
cardboard
To
containers.
the heart of my question, Tina, is
Yes.
if I cut back to every other week for the landfill bin,
yes.
how much do I save?
Well, it depends on which cart you have.
If you have a 32-gallon roll cart picked up weekly, your current rate is $20.57, and every other week would be $15.40. So it'd be $5.10.
$7 is, right.
Yeah, there's my pizza and probably a latte, and so.
And your
if
compost.
If we, exactly, exactly, so we could add the 10%, I could go to the twice, every other week,
So,
and I come out ahead.
well, the 10, that,
Close,
the,
really doing the math.
you would come out, that's with the $6.85 on the residential only. At the 10%, you would come out way ahead.
That's what I'm trying to point out of like, if you do this right and
Yeah.
buy appropriately and reuse things, you could use the littlest can on an on-call basis.
Right.
I mean, really. And then, bigger picture, it goes that way.
Well, you have some,
Yeah, I do have a question. When we rolled out the recycling, did the recycling program, does it all businesses as well? Wouldn't that happen?
Yes.
So all businesses are required to have that?
Yes.
Okay, that was,
Tina, could you help me think ahead? So we do this hypothetically, next council meeting, a year from now, 2021, we launch, and you liked in March because we pick up the summer and the green and all that stuff. So come March of '22, what would I expect to see? What would we expect to see as evaluation of this? What would the numbers look like on Lonnie's tonnage report?
So, I mean, we're estimating that we'll pick up approximately 2,500 tons, and this is based off of our neighbors. So we said, what are you picking up? And Lonnie keeps really, really good numbers, and we do really good weight and time studies, and so I think our numbers will be better. But, you're going to see a pie shape of landfill, recycle, and compost. And, I am going to tell you that here's the phenomenon in all of this, and Diana may remember this. When Portland, Deanna, I'm sorry. You can blame your parents. When Portland started their composting program, I'm going to pick the number so there was 10,000 tons picked up. The landfill amount did not get reduced by 10,000 tons. It was 8,000 tons. So where did that 2,000 tons come from? We don't know. We're assuming, it was people maybe that were backyard composting that were like, hey, I have this nice bin now. I can use that portion of my yard for something else. We don't know. But it's not going to be a 1-to-1 ratio.
But you do expect the 40% roughly drop in landfill.
That is what the state averages
right.
tell us.
So somewhere
now, what
somewhere.
Lincoln City does, I don't have a magic ball, but that's what the state averages tell us.
But we have a history of doing better than the state anyway. Correct?
We are better.
Our recycling?
Our
was-
recycle and participation rates are above average.
Okay.
But we don't have leaves, so take that into consideration. I mean, think about going to Eugene or Salem or Portland in the fall. And so, but we do have needles.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
just,
But I think it's also
I'm
important.
kind of excited to see what we do get.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think it's important, as my point to you earlier, that, and to the public, that this isn't an economic thing. This is a landfill.
This is this is a choice that you have made to reduce stuff going to the landfill. And I think that it's an economically feasible thing to do to get that type of reduction. I'm going to tell you that we have spent way more money per percentage, pound, ton, whatever you want to call it, to recover things, paint, electronics, glass. I mean, so dollar for dollar in reduction and what you're recovering, this is your most economically feasible and biggest bang for your buck.
I was to that point is
Yeah.
if you do it right,
Right.
you
You have to
really
work at it.
can. I mean,
Get it.
get Ron's blog going. No,
Yeah.
but
No, I-
but I mean, but in all reality, I also forgot that
There's a lot of flexibility
right,
built
and
into
so
the
I've
system.
been,
Yeah.
I see the garbage man in the store, and he's like, "So, do you have any garbage?" I'm like, because it's just me, so, and
Yeah.
so it's it's a month that goes by, but I'm paying for that service. So I mean, but I get it, and maybe addressing the statute too is
Yeah. Good.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would think too, because of land use. I mean, in my area, I've seen like grass debris thrown in yards, and and just wood debris and things like that thrown away. I would hope that would improve the environment, in our public areas as well. Would encourage people to do more.
To compost
To
rather
compost, yeah,
than
throwing it in an empty lot.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that if you have a bin sitting at your house, there would be no reason to illegally
Right.
dump it
grass
somewhere.
clip-
Especially if
grass
it's
clipping.
you're paying
mandatory.
for anyway.
Right.
So I just want to ask a clarifying question. I think I heard you ask us for a policy decision besides just approving where looks like we're going for next week. But if we move forward with this, which we probably would, but, and everybody, it's a mandatory program. Everybody is included,
Residential.
residential.
That's correct.
Of which, in essence, the ordinance says today. Correct. I mean, we would add to the ordinance because the garbage is required. What I heard Tina say is our ordinance hasn't allowed for the flexibility that she has available and makes sense accomplishing the same thing, that in fact, you could have
Currently, your
on-call-
ordinance says that you have to have a minimum of every other week pickup,
Right.
but we provide monthly
On-call.
and on-call as
Yeah.
well.
And that's what needs to be added to the ordinance.
But your ordinance also says that garbage service is mandatory for every person that has a water meter, and that is not enforced either.
Okay.
All right, so, other questions, because the Frenches are going to abandon us.
I'm not going to abandon you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I might point out that what will come before you next week is a resolution adding this service. It's the same way in which we added the recycling. Any changes that we would make on the ordinance would come at a later date.
All right?
Yeah, if you did not a $6.85 per thing, if you did a percentage, what would that be? We wouldn't work out that way.
No, that's your option.
That's what's on here.
That's what I'm asking you to do.
Without businesses,
Oh, residential only?
correct.
What would the percentage be?
Correct.
I don't know, but I could get back to you on
That
that.
would be a number, if, to make it work. Not including business
So-
and not a
How
per-
big of an increase that would be on the residential, is you're asking?
Well, I mean, I could tell you what the percentage is right now. Is that what you're saying?
I
It would
would-
still be a flat fee.
I'm asking you, what would a percent increase, not a flat fee, would be, not including businesses, because they're not participating? What would that number, what would that percentage be to make it happen and not a flat fee?
If you just charged residential and didn't use the subsidy.
Right, that's the $6.85.
Oh.
I'm asking for a percentage to make it work.
20%.
Does that make any, am I not? Correct.
So you're saying then the larger users would subsidize the smaller users, is what you're looking for there?
No, to take away.
Currently, what you have it at is about 35%, at 685.
Is a 35%.
About.
On a 32.
That's what I'm saying. If you did not include businesses and did not have a flat fee per user, what would the percentage increase need to be per user, per residential user need to be in order to make this happen? I understand it's 10% if we include business.
Right.
I understand it's a $6.85 per person.
So
But if it's not that,
here,
the percentage
here's the problem, is that regardless of, the program costs $603,000. If all services stayed the same, then you could do a percentage increase on residential only and have that revenue static. The $603,000 that you need to pay for the employee, the truck, the disposal, and so on and so forth. If you put a percentage instead of a cost per user, and now all of a sudden I have 40% of the people switch from 96s to 32s, all that revenue goes away.
right,
And now I don't hit my revenue mark.
right.
So that won't work. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well,
If you could freeze everybody where they're at, you could do that.
but not freezing everybody, you could do that with commercial. You get what I'm?
Right, it's close enough because,
Commercial is that significant that everybody
Yes.
could reduce their cans in half, and you would still be fine.
close enough.
That's incredible. How, so you said that Waldport was able to use the same truck. Why aren't you able to use the same truck?
Because Walport had weekly recycling
What's our recycling?
every other week.
And you said you didn't want to do that because you didn't want to confuse people which bin to put out?
I didn't want to do what?
Confuse people which bin it was. So you're saying do both of
We've
them at
never
the same-
had weekly recycling.
I understand that.
Okay.
You want to get a separate truck so that you could do both of them at the same time.
No, I want to get a separate truck because I don't have any trucks to pick up a compost roll cart.
You didn't want to alternate them because you didn't want to confuse people which week it was.
Doesn't matter whether I alternate them and pick them up the same week, I still need a truck and a driver. What Walport did is they cut their program in half. So they replaced a program with a different roll cart.
I understand.
So they didn't have to add a truck and a man.
If my recycling is, what is it, once a month?
No, it's every other week.
Every other week?
So that truck picks you up one week and it's picking up somebody else on the opposite week.
So you just simply couldn't do it, is what I'm asking. You could not physically use the same truck.
No, it's busy.
I just need you to say that so that other people here
Okay.
know I can't do it.
So Walport had weekly recycling. They got rid of weekly recycling and went every other week and added the compost on the opposite weeks. We've always had every other week recycling, so that truck is on the north end of the county on one week and on the south end of the county on the other week. So it can't be in two places at once.
Gotcha.
Okay, because I'm going to get a lot of people saying, why is it
Okay.
saying da-da-da-da-da?
Right. I get it.
Okay,
I thought you didn't get it.
I do.
You're concerning me, Riley.
I want you to say it so that I don't have to say it later.
Other questions? Are we all right? And that was our agenda for this work session. Thank you,
Yeah, thank
Tina,
you.
for putting up with us.
And don't hesitate
Lonnie.
to call me between now and Monday. Or even, well, yeah. You can text me on Monday during your meeting, but
What's that number? Just go ahead and say it. No, I'm just kidding.
it's on my business card.
Thank you.
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that takes care of the work session.
Ron?
I'm sorry. Yes, it does, sir.
All right, and we'll stand adjourned. So pizza boxes is the question here.
I know, but
Yeah.